Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about Avalanche AVAX and if we think that price is going to go up or down, and we're not going to look at candle charts and these stock prediction. Basically, these are just astrology in my opinion, and maybe they work in some bull markets and you can get lucky, but in this case, we're not going to look at them. We're going to look at the true essence of AVAX. We're going to look at the market analysis and we're going to see if this is going to actually go up or go down. We're going to look at the economy effects on it, the past price, the advantages of AVAX over others to see what the price is going to do, look at the roadmap, and we're going to get into it all in this video. If you're not familiar with AVAX, AVAX is a top coin in the ecosystem. I'm going to drop a link to their site so that you can do some of this research on your own and what their advantages are over some of the other top tokens like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, and all other layer ones. Since recently, Luna just took a huge dive. If you're not familiar with that, Luna, one of the top tokens in the store, has a higher market cap than AVAX. Another layer one went to zero almost overnight. It happened super quick, and that has shattered confidence with crypto investors, particularly investors that would invest in things like Avalanche. Investors that have the appetite to get into downloading a MetaMask and going into the depths of crypto is the same kind of investor that would invest into Avalanche. So that hurts because they have less liquidity, they have less buying power than they used to, where they used to be able to potentially transfer their earnings from Luna into AVAX. They no longer do that. How much of does a factor does that play? We're going to talk about that. Let's start by looking at some of the stats on Avalanche. So what we want to do is I'm going to drop a link to this too in the bio. We're going to go into the network activity of AVAX stats, and what we're going to look at that I think is one of the more important things is the amount of users. So we're going to look at daily active users and monthly active users. So to start, let's look at daily active. You can see pretty quickly that the trending regression of AVAX is generally going down. And what really is a little bit frightening, if you're going to look at users, is these last 4 days. These last 4 days are the all-time low over this entire period where AVAX went straight up. They shot up. If you look at their token price, this is where they ramped up, right? And then so that is a direct result of more and more people actually using it, using the utility of AVAX and being able to transfer. AVAX generates their value from doing that. We're going to look at the MAU of this in just a second, but I want to focus on this daily active users and show that this trend going down, and don't worry about this number, by the way, this is today is May 18th, so this number is not fully flushed out yet, but you have to look at what this trend of daily active users is going to do, because if people are using this less and less, people are less active on this chain, then that really dilutes the value of AVAX's token. And what's actually promising though, if we're going to zoom out, we're going to look at this. There's actually a good bit, if you were to take the integral of this right here and look at the volume, there's a lot of decent days here relative to before where there's a lot of periods where we were down. So if we're down here a little bit and shoot back up, no big deal. What I think is promising is the monthly active users segment. So if you scroll into the monthly active users, this is May. We're looking at May here, we're at 501, where April was 619. And May is only halfway over. The fact that we've already reached this number of monthly active users is actually pretty impressive. So I think that's a pretty bullish sign for AVAX, that their MAU is able to reach that number at this point in time already. I'd almost expect this to soar beyond, which would be an amazing sign to have their first growth month in users in a while. Their last growth month was from December to January, and they inched above, and then they shot down. February was lower than March, but that's not necessarily a growth month because February has 3 less days than March. So the time that people can jump in and be considered a monthly active users is 3 days longer. I consider this a drop when you're looking at these. Now, another thing you want to look at is these curves right here. what's interesting about these sets is it looks like, oh, it keeps going up. Well, it never goes down, right? So how many unique contractor deployers, they're not really being pulled away. It's just additive every month. So what you're kind of seeing here is this slowed growth curve, right? So this kind of looks like it's almost at that point where it's leveling off, and that's not what you want to see. You wanted to see this line, right, where this just kind of shoots up, and the ability to change trajectory at this point can happen. It's just less likely, especially in a bear market. We're going to talk about the bear market effects as well. These graphs are similar where it's stacking instead of the actual trend of daily active users and the actual trend of MAU. So undisputedly, the MAU count and DAU count is going down, right? And what we want to do is attribute this to the price and see what the actual price numbers might look like. And what's interesting is if you look at the monthly active users numbers at 501,000 today, let's look at where they were in October: 353, 185, 90, and then you go down and it's super low. Anywhere before that, January 21, 1,000 MAU, 26,000 MAU, 40,000 MAU. They've shot up a ton and they're able to maintain this. And regardless, they've maintained a lot of exposure. So a lot more people know about AVAX than they did. So let's go over to the price and look at this. What I want to focus on is some of those dates that we highlighted, right? When you look at their MAU count, MAU meaning monthly active users, I'm just going to refer to that going forward. Let's just take August as a snapshot at 2021 August with 90,000. All right. And then we're going to go back to the price. So August is right here when they had 90,000. We now have 5x the number of, of users, and the price is pretty similar. The number of tokens are also somewhat similar. So there's not been a ton of inflation to make up for it, right? There's not 5 times the number of tokens, but there's over 5 times the number of users, and May hasn't even finished yet. So that's one thing that's also a really interesting note. But one thing to also note is how many of those users are coming in and actually selling AVAX instead of buying it. And so let's stop and recap a little bit, right? So the number of users is kind of interesting because there's dropping DAU, but there's increasing MAU. DAU is going down, MAU is going down until May, where we're going to assume that it's actually going to go up. And it's not something where it's reported, right? This isn't going to be something that's public and where AVAX says, hey, look at our huge growth in MAU and the price shoots up. This is just something that's ongoing stats that we have constant visibility in. The reason you see that with public companies is because they hide this information. That's one advantage of a currency is everything is shown at any point in time. You can see all the data, and we can make decisions very quickly. And that's why we're able to actually make gains over other people, because we're actually going to look into this data and we're going to see what the price of AVAX is actually going to do. So let's keep all of this in the back of our minds, right? And we're going to talk about something else, and we're going to come back to this and what the true effects are going to be of this increased user count. Let's go into AVAX price, and we're going to talk about the highs that was hitting, and we were kind of oscillating between, we go down to 60, seemed like the lowest of lows, and then we almost got back to 100. We dropped again, almost back to 100. Can we get back to this 134 mark? Can we go beyond that 134 mark? Well, let's talk about what happened to cause the slide. One big thing is the market's going down, no matter which way you slice it. Let's look at the S&P for the United States, down 18% year to date. That's a huge, huge drop. Even if you zoom out 5 years, I mean, this drop right here was giant when COVID hit. I mean, we're seeing an 18% drop right now. We're sliding down. A lot of stuff going on, right? It's part of it might be over market correction. Part of it is that we have a war going on. Interest rates are increasing, and they're going to continue increasing over the course of the year. That's what the Fed has said. So you're seeing this price start to drop, and it's going to continue dropping. And if this price continues to drop, you're also going to see a AVAX drop. AVAX is big enough that it's moving alongside the market. Then you couple the Luna crash with shattered confidence in investors, and that's going to force the price down even further. So I think one big question that we have to consider here is the price crash of Luna going to linger for how long? Because it's going to be when investors are more confident in another layer one outside of, we're not looking at Ethereum, we're not looking at Bitcoin, the gigantic ones. Is there the ability for AVAX to pick back up? Are investors going to get that confidence back? I don't know how long that's going to last. And I don't think it's one of the most important things. I think, if anything, we're at the lowest point right now of that confidence. We are at the lowest point of confidence now. So what you should actually be thinking about is that's bottomed out. Confidence is only going to go up from here from the Luna crash because people move away with time. That emotion fades. And when that motion fades from the Luna crash, then they're going to continue buying. So that's one thing to keep in mind that is a bullish sign. Where we get bearish is the crash from Luna, and then if the market continues going down, because the price of this is all about sentiment, right? People are going to buy AVAX as an investment, and they're going to engage in the ecosystem as an investment because that's what people are doing with crypto right now. People are using crypto not for anything, no matter which way you slice it. I know there's utility, but people are in this space to make money. People are buying and selling crypto to make money. That is the reason 99.8% of people are here. Tell me the last time. If you have, comment, please. I want to know that you bought a physical item with AVAX. You could buy items with USDC and stable coins and things like that, but people are not actively buying and selling things. So the actual utility, other than other digital assets and swapping for other tokens to make more money, people aren't truly using this for what its potential capabilities might be however many years down the line. And it's more of a bet on sentiment of who is which of these tokens is going to prevail as a top token that is continuously being used. Now, one thing to consider with AVAX is there going to be a big dump, right? Are the original holders going to dump AVAX? It's not a huge concern because about 10% of the currency is held by the original founders and investors, etc. So it's not a huge worry. If everyone sells, it's not going to tank the price that bad unless it causes a bank run like Luna. But I wouldn't anticipate that to be the case. Now let's look at, if we go zoom out to all. Here's what I want to mention. Look at Luna, look at AVAX when it was in this area, right? We kind of oscillated until we broke down. Let's stop right here and look at this. Look at this line right here. It's just a little bit higher of where we are right now, where it kind of was reaching these peaks. Then you go to the lows, and that's much lower. And we might start to see some oscillation here within that same range because we're in a bear market. We weren't in a bear market here. The AVAX was just getting started, just getting going. We looked at the MAU counts, right? People weren't using it here. They just started using it here at a super low number of users, and people didn't know what to think. Now AVAX has proven itself that it can be a top dog. It can be a top 10 coin. And I do think it will get back there. It's just when's the right time to enter, and what is the price going to be at the end of the year? If you're to put up your crystal ball, and where do you see this graph going? Do you see us oscillating here, and then we start going back up? Do you see us continue crashing? Do we settle down for a while at levels like these? Where I'm going to put my bet, if you're looking at the MAU count, you're looking at the DAU count, you're looking at the utility of this, and you're looking at the market of what could happen over the course of 2022, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a little bit of oscillation for a little while. We're going to oscillate between maybe 50 and 20. I do think that we will hit $20 in AVAX. And does that mean, hey, don't buy any right now? I don't think so. I think it's not a bad time to lean into it. And maybe you buy a little bit now and then you sell when it gets to 36. There's ways to make money in this market, but the way that I would play it is I wouldn't buy everything right now. I wouldn't say, oh, now's the best buying price. As soon as it hits sub 30, I'm going to put everything into AVAX. But you can put some money into AVAX, and then if it goes from 29 to 36, congratulations, you just did a 24% gain. That's amazing. Sell it. Sell it when it hits that 24% gain. As soon as you get 20% plus, go ahead and exit, because we are facing what looks to be a very bearish signal over the course of 2022. So when you're placing eggs in the right basket, when you're looking at cryptocurrency, that is one of the riskiest assets that you can be in. So when you're looking at risky assets, they're going to get hammered the hardest. When you have something like a Luna crash, AVAX is going to get hit just as hard. As people get their confidence back with cryptocurrency, this will return, but confidence back in cryptocurrency also stems from Bitcoin and Ethereum and the amount of bull signals that those are going to have. So you have to factor all of that in when you're considering your next price. And you can also look at other coins that are within the ecosystem like Joe. Joe's amazing. Check out my tweet that I did on Joe and the ability that you can invest Joe. And when you invest Joe and you stake it, you're going to get USDC, a stable coin. I'm doing that right now. I did buy when Joe got to low 30 cents. And let's see when that was. If we zoom out, boom. Joe was in the 30s. I bought it then. I'm not selling now because I do believe in the long term value of Joe because it captures pretty much all of the market share of swaps from AVAX. So with Joe being able to do that, there's a lot of utility. There's a lot of upside for this token for Joe. And you've seen the price be able to hit some pretty great highs. And then as soon as the market started going down, we started to see a slump that got to be pretty low. But what you want to look at is the ultimate potential of the coin. Will it get back to be over $1? I do think so. There's some inflation that it does have. But again, look at the threads that I have on Twitter. That'll be pretty insightful for you to look at. And when you consider the price also of AVAX versus Joe, there's more upside. There's more potential. It's a smaller, more volatile coin. So I wouldn't put everything into AVAX if I'm investing right now. I would ease a little bit into AVAX. I would ease a little bit into Joe. And when it comes to full price prediction over the course of the year, I'm not sure that we're going to hit 100 again this year. I'm actually very hesitant that that will be the case. So if you're doing this to get a 3x return, you might as well hold on to your currency, hold on to your stable coins for now, and don't invest quite yet and maybe start to lean in more if AVAX hits $20. If AVAX keeps going down, then it might be a good buy. If we start to see, and keep an eye on these stats, if we start to see continued growth in MAU, if MAU gets to be above 800,000 again, I'm going to start buying, no matter what the price is at. If we start seeing user growth, that means we're going to see growth in the token without a doubt. Developer growth has been pretty strong for AVAX. That to me is also a huge thing. The more that companies and individual developers are building for AVAX, the more resources there are for users to come in. I think as a company in general, like if you were to treat Avalanche as a company, it has a pretty strong capability just with the way it's built. It is this open source capability where developers can build things, and when developers build things, people come in. So it has this scalable diversification where anyone can jump in, build something, and that's going to continuously bring in more and more users, and developers are going to continue bettering that. So there's a lot of potential for AVAX as a token. It's just terms of when is the right time to buy, and you can't really time the market, right? We know that, we've talked about that. But as far as looking at the market, if you're to look at where it was, we're at 5x the number of users. We're going to go back to that. 5x the number of users at this point in time, and the price is only double. So the other part is people are much more optimistic at this point in time. People are much more pessimistic at this point in time. Could we hit down to these lows again? We could. So don't put all of your eggs in this basket. But if you want to start leaning in, it's not a bad time. And once it starts getting to 20, maybe that's a better price point to start buying AVAX. I know I'm going to start buying it if it gets to $20. I'm going to start buying it by the end of the year. I think we'll get to $60 plus if things start turning around. If we start getting to heavy recession, then and if the war continues going on, there's a lot of factors that could push it down. So that's just why you have to be careful. That's why I keep saying leaning in instead of buying everything at once, because there's too many negative potential factors that could happen and not enough positive potential factors that could happen. If the war in Ukraine ends, you're going to see the price go up without a doubt. That's going to happen. If the Fed comes out and says, hey, we're going to cool it on interest rates, you're going to see this shoot up, and that's going to be amazing. And that could happen this year. So you don't want to miss out on those jumps. So make sure that you lean in if you're thinking about buying it. And it's not the worst price point to buy right now. of where we're at around $30. And again, if you want outsized returns, just be patient, buy in over time, and really excited to go on this journey with you guys. So make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you've made it this far, there's no way you don't subscribe. You have to. You obviously like the content. Please leave a comment below if you want to me to reply. I'll reply right away. Like the video if it gave you any value at all. Follow me on Twitter. Excited for you to become a part of the DeFi Whale community. Thanks for sticking around, and until next time, peace out, guppies.